Good evening and welcome to the Drive at 5 on IntellectualRadio.com/iHeart radio station. I'm your host, Roland. We have a terrific show planned for you today. Don't forget to stay tuned for Words Talk with Rochelle at 6 p.m. after the Drive at 5. My guest tonight is a legend in her own right. And last weekend was an end of an era in Maywood. A Black owned and operated bookstore is gone, but hopefully not for good. Please give a Drive at 5 welcome to Nzingha Nommon. Welcome to the Drive.
Nzingha Nomo. Thank
The
you
Momo.
so
I'm sorry for the
Nomo.
last one. I
That's fine.
apologize for that. Please give IntellectualRadio.com/iHeart radio station your background.
Okay. First of all, thank you so much for the invitation. And I always like to give thanks to our ancestors who came here before us. We would not be here without them. Who is Afriware Books? And who is Nzingha Nomo? Afriware has been in business. We've been in business 30 plus years. We started off in Broadview. We moved to Oak Park. And at this very moment, we're at the end of our era. I like that word, in Maywood. We are going to be moving to a virtual office space, Oak Park. And that will begin a pivot for us to focusing more on the school systems and organizations that are interested in sourcing their books from Afriware Bookstore. I got involved in this business in a very different way. I am a bookseller who used to hate to read. I don't even like admitting that, but it is absolutely true. I ended up going into electrical engineering specifically because I asked the counselor what major I could choose that didn't include reading. So at that time, I was very adverse to reading. But something happened along the way. A book club was started at the company that I was working for, AT&T. And 3 Black men said, let's begin a book club. I read Miseducation of the Negro by Carter G. Woodson, Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man, and it changed my life. I quit the job and started the business. That's the short story. Did I answer
Yes.
the question?
Yes.
Okay.
So that was the inspiration for you creating and owning a Black owned and operated bookstore. How did you start collecting Black owned books?
That absolutely started the same time. Once I recognized that this deep wealth of cultural information was missing from my educational experience, I could not get enough of it. And I also wanted others to experience the same culturally elevated position that I felt placed in. Once you know that you are a part of a powerful people who created, who invented, who contributed so greatly to the world, you might grow a few inches as a result. You definitely carry yourself differently. And I felt that this was the missing ingredient in the school systems. And I wanted everyone to be aware of it. I felt it was the best kept secret. So that's really where it all began. Because prior to that, I was not into reading at all.
Your bookstore has a variety of book selections. Describe the book selections in your store. That it was a variety. I went in there recently and
Yes.
saw the variety, and it looked like it can expound for miles and miles and miles. And these are Black owned and authors.
Absolutely. And it's been a delight to uncover all of the areas that Black people have, you know, contributed to. I had recently a story of a young lady who came in the store and she said, "Do you have any books with about dogs with people that look like me?" That was her request. So, of course, I did have to do a little digging. I knew of one by, I think it's Will Smith did one, but there are others. And she was just pointing out to me, that unfortunately it's not readily available, you know. Something as simple as a girl and her dog, right, is a common thing to see, but to find books on that, she recognized, I think, the power in being able to see herself reflected in literature. There's something to that reawakens a child's interest in reading. And so I did not let her leave until I found at least one. And then I emailed her father later with a list to choose from. And so, yes.
Your bookstore has a variety, and among those varieties, you carry banned books that
Oh,
were
yes.
banned in some states. Why is it essential to have banned books in your store?
Oh, my goodness. Because banned books to me are a backwards, primitive way of an attempt to silence voices. And once material is not made available, silencing then leads to control. And so I want to make sure that it's clear that all books, you can find all books at the bookstore. They're all accessible as long as they're in print in general. I can get my hands on them, and the intellectual knowledge can continue to flow. You may not necessarily agree with every part of a book, but you can extract what works for you and just keep on moving. But to ban a complete literary work is a dangerous place, I think, for a society to find itself in. It's very, very dangerous, and you will find that that was also the case in other regimes where they wanted to control the people and then control the narrative and then justify justify acts of violence, justify acts that are not legal. So yeah,
Well,
you
if you
need.
go back, and
Mhm.
sorry to cut you off, when you go back in history, even though you have an engineer background, you read plenty of books, you researched Black history, and you know, and you know, and you know. What I mean by that is when you pointed out what you just said, like silencing
Mhm.
a person's speech. But let's go beyond that. Do you think the people who are banning these books want to silence a culture
Yes.
instead of a
Okay.
person? Silence a culture as we start to learn the truth about ourselves.
Mhm.
Silence a culture when people say, look this way, and I always tell them, you look opposite.
Mhm.
You go
Mhm.
left, you turn right. That's because
Mhm.
you never know My question is, do you think they're silencing a culture instead of a voice?
Oh my, I absolutely do. And that's just because if you analyze the list of the books that are on the banned list, you will find that most of them are by or about people of Black people or people of color. They're groups that are being targeted. Um, if you look at the statistics, which you can find on my blog, I have covered and studied the list. For example, Malcolm X's book, autobiography, is on that list. Early on, it was on that list. David Walker's Appeal is on that list. Um, if you think about it, if these books were not on that list, if they since those books are on that list, when you analyze them, they provided that dissenting voice to mainstream the mainstream narrative, right? That
But they don't know how to define the mainstream narrative. They they want to
they
define,
want to. They
but they
want
can't.
to. They can't. No one voice can define the global narrative. However, in this country, there is definitely um, a voice that is heard over and over again, repeatedly, to try to convince you that there is just this one voice. But there are so many, thankfully, so many voices that make up the human society. And we need to hear from everyone because everyone can contribute in some way to our betterment, to our improvement.
But some people don't feel that way.
They do not.
Some people feel like their voice, every time they say something, is challenged. They do something, is challenged. Their quote or many of quotes of Black intellectuals have said, and one just stood out, just for sake of argument.
Okay.
Malcolm X told Andrew Young, I think I led my people to a burning building regarding segregation.
Mm.
Do you think that yesterday's Black intellectual authors are leading new authors into a burning building because they're not really fighting the fight of being heard? It's a generational thing.
Okay, to go back to your initial voice about leaders feeling like they're being debated or they're not being heard, um, there is always room for a dissenting view. All
Can you give an
all
example?
Black people are not. We're not clones. I mean, there's plenty of examples how many different religious expressions we have, how many color preferences. Everybody is different, right? And we cannot all be siphoned into one frame of mind. Thankfully, this is good. This is good. And when you are corralled into just one voice, that also um, could lead to control. So that's not the answer either. But diversity in who we are as a people is important to hear us uh, analyze, discuss, debate, disagree. We can do those things, and that's a very healthy society to have. And if you are scared of that or hesitant to do that, it suggests an insecurity in the leader, that why shouldn't they want to further clarify their point of view and compare it to others. I don't see anything wrong with that, you know?
You are an educator.
Yes. Yes, I am.
Go ahead and tell them where you teach.
So now I'm teaching at Wright College. I'm teaching a C++ programming class. It's a beginner's class. And prior to that, I was teaching a technology and mathematical literacy class at DePaul University for 10 years. So I'm like using my background that I was trained in to garner an additional stream of income. But just recently, I realized that I could also connect this to my life's mission by highlighting books on STEM, science, technology, engineering. I should say STEAM, because now they're adding art and math to that. And that being my focus, because really the curriculae, if they included the likes of George Washington Carver, the likes of Lewis Latimer, inside of the books that talk about chemistry, that talk about electricity. Can you imagine that as a child to see, oh, wait a minute, I'm a part of this story. I am a part of, um, you know, math, science. I'm a part of that. I'm not just an observer, but this is in my bloodline. And so, to paraphrase the great Malcolm X, once we know what we have done, then we know what we can do. And those who reflect on what our ancestors did are supposed to surpass what our ancestors did, are supposed to improve upon what they did. Because now we know what they tried, we know how far they got, we have new information now, and we're supposed to do better. We're supposed to improve.
Also, in your bookstore, you have selections of artwork like paintings, jewelry, African clothing at your store. You designed the store for a customer to have a total experience.
Yes, I definitely did.
Define that experience for us.
Sure. I want whoever comes through the doors to meet them where they are. So if they're interested in a scent, a special scent to wear, then the type of oils that we have are culturally reflective of that. They're called Black Love. They're called Kush, after the name of.
There's a scent called Black Love.
There is. There's a scent called. Let's see. Let me get some of them that are more culturally based. Oh my goodness, it's not coming to me, but I make sure to choose the ones that have some cultural reference in them to distinguish them from the big box stores, right? This is part of the value. So if scents is what you care about, if you like moisturized skin, we have shea butter. Artwork, we carry local artist Chanel Romaine's beautiful depictions of Black people in the store. It's just making sure that people feel comfortable wherever they are. Some people may not, be readers, as I wasn't a reader at the beginning, but you want to express your cultural identity in some form. I want to provide that as well, so that you can, and I can go with you on that journey. You're not going to get it all, right? In one bracelet, in one book even. it's a journey, and it's a beautiful journey to travel on and find out about the richness and of our people, the heritage that has sustained us and buoyed us to this point. We are survivors. We aren't just a people who laid down and were enslaved. That is just a small fraction of our historical journey, and it's just a beautiful it's a beautiful experience to uncover all that is waiting for us to see and add to.
Your store is closing. This was your bread and butter, or the heart and soul of our culture that was being, I would say, seen in your own eyes.
Yes.
And that is knowledge and seeking knowledge. Tell us why the Black community must have Black owned and operated bookstores in their community.
It is critical. And just to make sure everybody's clear, we closed up, but we didn't close down. So we have that virtual space, and we'll continue our work for sure online until another space is available. Why is it important to have Black bookstores? Um, if you measure a healthy society, it will include spaces that people can go to and feel safe. That is the measure of a healthy society. One of those safe places is our bookstores that are reflective of our culture. And I joke with some of my staff that sometimes it does feel like we are therapists, because all we have to do is reflect upon how we're treated in other stores, followed around the store, security being called to our side, ask the question, what do you want, as soon as you get through the door. But at cultural centers like bookstores, Black owned bookstores, of course, ideally, we're not all the same, but ideally, you will at first see a reflection of yourself in the staff, in the product line, in the vendors that the products are coming from, are purchased from. There are so many opportunities to invest in cultural capital by visiting a Black owned bookstore, because the dollars are being recycled. They're being recycled back into the community instead of being siphoned out of the community. So they're essential to our health and welfare.
As you explain that, the question becomes, why not? We talk about right now entrepreneurship, right?
Hmm.
If we really look carefully, owning a Black owned and operated bookstore is entrepreneurship.
Absolutely.
And you can expound upon that. It's like when you go to, let's say, Hyde Park, Oak Park, they have bookstores, and you can see, open in, you can just smell the knowledge.
Mhm.
However, when you go into a Black community, you don't see that, you don't hear it. And I'm not saying every Black community, I'm saying majority of our Black community, we don't embrace books like we used to. Knowledge. like we used to. And some people would say it's technology that's playing a part, playing that role that basically I can just look it up. I don't need no
Google
what
it.
I can
Can
Google
Google
it.
it.
I don't need to read the whole book. I can just read this
Mhm.
section. I got it, blah, 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 so forth and so on. But however, when you look at it, you look at why people look at technology. And I know about this because music is a good example. Remember records and a
Yes.
record player, right?
Yes.
Then we moved on to CDs. They said records will be obsolete.
They did.
No records.
Mm-hmm.
No that crackling sound. No, it's CDs.
Right. CDs is the thing. Right.
CDs was a thing for, I would say, 2.5 decades.
Mm-hmm.
Now records are
Coming
back.
back. Isn't it amazing?
Records are back.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, I remember this. You can buy a book
Mm-hmm.
and you can put it on your phone, your cell
Mm-hmm.
phone,
Yes, you
right?
can. Yes, you can.
And you can just read, 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 read. Now, I prefer having a book. It's nothing like having a book.
Oh, of course, I agree with that. And
No, go ahead.
let me ask you. Okay. Oh, you said so much there. So there's cycles, right? There are cycles to everything. And now that I've lived long enough, I can't believe, bell bottoms, right, are back. I remember when they were in as well. But there's some things that will stand the test of time. And physical books, I think, are proving to be just that because I remember when the Kindles first came out, I was just like really concerned that about business then. And the young lady came to a book signing we had with L.A. Banks. She is a fantastic mystery writer. I mean, she's got like 40 titles to her name. Anyway, she's passed, so may she rest in power. But this young lady came to her book signing. And on the way in, I said, "Oh, we have all of her titles available," something like that. And she says, "Oh, I have it on my Kindle." And I was like, "Oh man," But when she came out of that book signing, she bought a book. And I asked her, I said, "What happened? I thought you said you had it on your Kindle." She said, "Well, I can't get the author's signature on my Kindle." She said, "And I want to have it as like a collector's item. Totally different than what you can have on a Kindle." So there's room for it all, is what I'm finding. Yes, there are going to still be people who, if they have to travel, they don't want to carry a lot of books, they're going to use their Kindle. And there's going to be also people like myself, I have to have the physical book. I need to write in it. That helps me retain information. In fact, there is a study that proves that retention and comprehension are increased when you compare reading a physical book to reading a book on Kindle. There is statistics to prove that.
Have you ever thought about writing a book?
Okay, so I have so many books that are waiting in the wings, for me to publish. I have started publishing a few books that are like in the public domain. So there's a book on Major Taylor, who was the fastest bicycle rider in the world. My book is waiting also to be republished. It's called African Seeds of Life. And I'm talking about the everyday seasonings in your cupboard that can also be used as medicinally help in digestion and hair growth and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm familiar. I have authored some books and I have others, poetry, all of that as well.
As we have more independent Black authors, it is becoming more apparent to tell their stories. Black bookstores, according to some Black authors, not all, are not independent Black owned and not independent Black author friendly.
Wait, say that the first
Meaning,
part again.
meaning that, let's say I'm an independent Black author
Okay.
and we're having more and more Black authors writing about everything, even about Black pens. Give
Yes.
you an example. However, Black owned and operated bookstores, according to some, are not independently Black author friendly.
Oh, I okay, now I know what you're saying.
Why?
Oh my goodness, I could do so many videos on this. All right, there is an educational process that is needed to for authors to understand um, the process of getting their book on any shelf, any bookstore shelf, Black or otherwise. So, for example, one of the things that we used to have to make sure to mention is to have an ISBN number. Believe it or not, there are some authors that will write a book without an ISBN number. Now, when we first opened 30 years ago, we accepted them readily. Now, with technology evolving, it is much more difficult to track a book without an ISBN in your inventory. So it is now more of a requirement to have the barcode on the back of that book. That's one example. Another example is the accessibility of their book. Some authors decide to sell the book out of the trunk of their car. Okay, that is fine. However, when ordering books every week, if I were to order books from each and every independent author separately, it is a bookkeeping nightmare. The ideal situation is to purchase their book from an established distributor so that my shipping costs do not outweigh the profit that I will make from selling that book. So in other words, I buy a book from Jamal for $10. He's an independent author. I say, okay, I'll take one copy and try it out in the store. The shipping cost is $6. Okay. Usually the price that I would pay for that book is $6, which is 60% of the $10. If I pay $6 for shipping, I will lose $2 because I've only made $4. So I'll lose $2 when I sell that book. All of this is, by the way, on my on my website under author information for those who may need to understand that a little bit better. So instead of buying directly from an author one copy of a book, I'd rather buy 10 books from one location. So 10 different authors from one location that sends the books to me without charging shipping at all because I've bought in bulk. I don't know if that makes sense. So that's part of the issue.
So that's how they get their books on the shelves?
Yes. Ideally, if they have it available at a distribution house so that I can order more than just their book to get it to me.
Is there a problem right now with there's no or very little Black distributors of books?
There are, unfortunately, not many Black owned distributors. There are some. Lucina Books is one, African World Books is another in DC, Red Sea Press is another, Third World Press is another. So all of those are also on my site. And those are all ones that I order from as well. I order from them. I order from the non-Black ones too, like Ingram. Um, Used to be Baker and Taylor. I order directly from publishing houses too, because the publishing house will have a higher likelihood of carrying other books besides just the one by the one author that I can get at the same time, so that I don't have to pay for shipping. Because the book industry, unfortunately, over the last 50 years has remained stagnant in the percentage that we gain for the profit. So we have to be extremely mindful of the shipping costs that cuts in to our small profit margin.
Let's say, for example, I'm a Black owned and operated independent author,
Okay.
and I say, hey,
Got a book.
got a book.
Okay.
Can you do a consignment?
Okay. Consignment is the magical word. And some authors are not familiar with that word. It just means that instead of paying up front for the book is paid for to the author after the book sells. And I've absolutely had many consignment arrangements over the years, especially.
Does it pan out better than?
It can, especially when it is paired with a book signing, right? Because then there is a concentrated, targeted strategy for selling that book. If that book is just brought into the bookstore without any additional marketing, then it might just sit there. It might just get lost amongst the titles, right? But if the author, I love to share with authors that it's really a joint partnership that we enter into when we agree to carry your book. We are hoping, right, that you are now also going to add us to your website. You're going to refer people to our bookstore to pick up your book. It's not all in the under the control over Afriware's marketing of your book, because there's plenty of other books that we are also marketing at the same time.
Can a Black owned and operated bookstore do author development series?
I have toyed with the idea in this way. I've done a few podcasts on like the top 10 things authors should know. I've put it on my website, but to be honest, there's so much, work to go around that I haven't gotten to the point where I've like defined a course, a development series or something on it. I have not gotten to that point yet. At this point, as I was saying earlier, I've recognized that the school system is where a big chunk of money lies. There's budget for it, right? They need books every year. And for sustainability, I have to at least, after 30 years of doing everything else, I have to at least immerse myself fully, make myself known, go to the school board meetings, go to the PTA meetings to, spread the word that we supply books. We to organizations, to groups, to classrooms.
Isn't that annoying that you've been in existence all this time, and even Black principals, it's a growing number of Black principals,
Yes, there are.
never heard of you,
Well,
never saw you, never 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 even had a glimpse, never had a conversation with you, until all of a sudden you're on NBC5 and your bookstore is closing, and they're saying why, what happened, and
Hmm.
all of this things, and you're saying, I've been here for a while.
A long while, yeah.
So your thoughts on that?
Yeah, okay, I don't want to misrepresent the school systems who have reached out over the years and accept at least 50% responsibility for not asserting Afriware's footprint into the school system, because I it was not on my radar to focus so intensely until this point when this light bulb went off, and Dr. Griffin was doing her PhD and chose Afriware for her dissertation project, and it was her who put this on the table. She says, "Oh, you need to go into the school systems." And before then, yes, there were teachers here and there who definitely called. Um, However, I was so entrenched, so saturated, overwhelmed in the day-to-day orders, coming in. I wasn't saying, "Okay, let me go to the schools." I was not doing that in a consistent enough way. And so, yes, it's surprising at times that there are some that I haven't heard of us, but it's a good problem to have because I can fix that, right? I can schedule time. I can get on their calendars, right? There are stones left unturned, right? So I still have energy and interest in doing so. I'm here for this, right? I'm here for this. I'm glad it wasn't too late before this realization, and I'm just thankful it has come now. And so look out, I'm have books will travel. Okay. And then I'm also uh, going to focus on the churches. We have had a presence in Trinity United Church of Christ on the south side of Chicago, and supported their book notes series. This is a wonderful program that I'd like to also have
Bring
in
on the west side.
other churches.
Yeah.
Yes, there we go.
Yeah. I know there's a lot of books, including Black children books, and there's books out there that represents the law that's out there, especially the Black law book that's out there.
Mhm.
My question is, even though you're online, you'll be in Oak Park physically, correct?
Oh yeah, let me explain that. Let me
Okay.
explain that better. The best word that I've come to use is hybrid, right? Because over the pandemic, we understand this notion of being in person and being online. So we will have both in that the online presence 24 hours a day, every day. The in-person presence will be at a minimum once per month in our virtual office location in Oak Park, which is 1033 South Boulevard. So once a month, we'll bring our items to that location and display them on tables, etc. We'll have book signings all in a 4-hour period, or other pop-up locations around town. But that will be like our headquarters, I'll say, for the pop-ups.
All right. Please give intellectualradio.com/iHeartRadio station how they can get in contact with you.
Oh, thank you. So the website's afriwarebooks.com. A is in Africa, F is in freedom, RIWARE books.com. That's one way. Our phone number is not changing. That's going to be 708-223 8081. We also have a very healthy social media presence on TikTok, on Facebook, on Instagram, and X. We also have a podcast. If you go to our website at the top, you select the options, you'll see a podcast as well, which is coming along.
No problem. Thank you so much for
Oh
coming
my
in.
gosh, this was wonderful.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Don't be a stranger.
Well,
Okay.
nah, this is a hidden gem here.
No,
right on Roosevelt Road.
That's Earl Winfrey over there. Thanks
Hey.
to Earl Winfrey, our
Thank you,
executive
Mr.
producer.
Winfrey.
Wanda, who is behind the scenes. You guys have a wonderful week.